What's up, y'all? I'm Devon here again for Obligatory. We do a weekly music news segment on this channel every Friday. Today is May 24, 2024. And at the end of these episodes, we always have our new releases from this week and upcoming albums for next week, next month, and for the rest of the year. That's kind of what this whole episode is going to be about. So let's get right to some of the best new music announced this week. I would say the biggest name of anything I'm going to talk about this week, at least for me, is Isaiah Rashad, who has confirmed that he is working on his fourth studio album. So this was an announcement that came during one of his concerts this week. It's a pretty brief update with not a lot of information to go off of, but again, basically he says he's working on a new album, he's potentially changing the title, and that he's hoping to drop it likely this year. That definitely tracks with what TDE has been saying. They want to drop 5 albums this year. I thought that's probably impossible, but they've already dropped Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q and Heavy by Sir. There have been rumors of a SZA SOS Deluxe album coming out this year and a TDE compilation album. So I would love to hear a Doechii album this year. That might not happen, but those are kind of the albums that may fill the rest of the slate for them. Then we got JID, or JID, however you want to call him, the Dreamville artist who dropped the critically acclaimed Forever Story in 2022. He is currently also on tour and announced this week via Instagram that he plans to release his next album once his tour is done. So I'm kind of getting the vibe that he has some music ready to go, and we'll probably get something this summer from him. Thundercat recently confirmed in an interview with NME that dropped this week that he is working on a new album and that he's kind of always creating new music. Now, he doesn't sound too much in a rush to finish it, and he really doesn't give up many details at all. But he does confirm that he is potentially releasing a few new collaborations on the album, but declines to say who. For my hip-hop fans out there, my Griselda heads, I am also very, very excited to say that, unofficially at least, we are getting murmurs of a Boldy James and Conductor Williams album. Boldy James, for me, exceptional rapper. Conductor Williams, one of the best producers to sort of come out of the Griselda renaissance, so to speak. This was one of those things that got on Twitter with like no real sources tied to a lot of where people were seeing this, but Redditors are saying that the source is Apple Music and that the album was briefly listed on the platform and then removed sometime. Maybe that date is tentative, but I would put at least a little stock into this album being something that we hear sometime soon. Then we got Mike, who is teasing multiple new projects. Very good interview, very much worth your time if you want to watch it. It's linked down in the description. But yeah, a little ways into this, he teases a few projects that are either done and waiting to release or stuff he's working on currently. So the first biggest one is a second pinball project, Pinball Part 2, he says, with Tony Seltzer. If you recall, that's his most recent album he released, which is really a different project for him. Took him into a bit of a new space that he's only dabbled in so far with other albums. Then he talked about some untitled music or maybe a project with Surf Gang, a group with a lot of members in it, but probably most prominently the producer Evil Gianni. Then finally he mentions a personal project, a solo album, maybe tentatively titled Man in the Mirror. Moving on to albums that were actually officially announced this week with album dates and like the whole 9 yards. Starting with the biggest name is Clairo. Her new album Charm is coming out July 12th via her own record label. This is going to be an album co-produced by Leon Michel of El Michel Affair, but it makes a lot more sense why she was on stage with Freddie Gibbs and Madlib last week, given that El Michel Affair does a lot of the live backing for them, either on the NPR Tiny Desk concert or for these Tenyatta shows. This announcement came with a new single, Sexy to Somebody. You can listen to it now. Clairo did tease this earlier in the year that maybe she might release an album this year, but it seemed like maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't, or maybe if we got it, it'd be late in the year. We're getting this thing this summer, so let's go. Then several very exciting R&B projects were announced. Kaytranada has a new album, Timeless, coming on June 7th, so just a couple weeks here. Kaytranada, of course, a really great producer. This thing is absolutely loaded with features from Childish Gambino to Anderson .Paak and Sir, Thundercat, Pink Panthers, Raven Lenae, and like so many other great and really talented names. And we did get a clip last week of Kaytranada performing a DJ set, and he played some of this unreleased Childish Gambino music, what we probably will be hearing on the album. So we will not have to wait on this very long at all. Like I said, ton of exciting features, very potentially could be one of my albums of the summer. Then we got a new Don Toliver album announced this weekend. I loved his most recent album. It was easily my most replayed album of 2023. Lovesick, and the deluxe, also very good. Hardstone Psycho, June 14th. This is coming out via Cactus Jack and Atlantic Records. A new single is already out, Attitude, featuring Cash Cobain and Charlie Wilson. Also wanted to mention the new Raveena album is coming out on the same day, June 14th, titled Where Butterflies Go in the Rain. So earlier this month, we got a couple singles from her. One is titled Pluto, the other Lucky, and those are both out now already. She is kind of going in what sounds like a more decidedly R&B, sound for things. And then pretty similarly, Fana Hues, who even went on tour with Raveena last year, she's got a new album coming out the same day. This one is titled Moth, which stands for Matter of All Things. She's got a new single out now that I really like. It's titled Rental. There will be one feature on this album from Bam Marley, and this summer she's going to be going on tour with Lucky Day. Getting back to some of the deeper hip-hop stuff here, I wanted to mention last week I talked about Lupe, Fiasco, and Your Old Droog. So they announced their albums officially last Friday, and I did get a chance to talk about them in the last episode, but wanted to mention them again. Lupe Fiasco's album was officially announced. It had been rumored for quite a while, but Samurai, the new album, is going to be coming out June 28th. And then I also wanted to mention Your Old Droog is coming out with a new album titled Movie the week before on June 21st. So this is somebody you might know as a frequent collaborator with people like Makhami and the God Fahim. It is said to have collabs with Madlib, Yasin Bey, Denzel Curry, Just Blaze, Method Man, Conductor Williams, and more, some of which we've already heard in some of the recent singles that are just like stacked up with amazing names. And then from there, got to talk about ShrapKnel. Again, pretty deep hip-hop here. These guys are on Backwood Studios. This is Curly Castro and Premrock, and the album is titled Nobody Planning to Leave, and it's coming out June 7th. This one's going to have features from Open Mike Eagle, Elucid, Breeze Bruin, and more. Also, I want to mention a couple really cool rock releases announced this week, the first being Horse Jumper of Love. They are a Boston-based slowcore band releasing their new album Disaster Trick on August 16th. Then finally, I got to mention Melt Banana here. Japanese noise rock legends are coming out with 3+5 on August 23rd. So this is going to be their 8th studio album, their first in over 11 years since 2013's Fetch, and they are currently on tour. This thing is going to release around the time they're wrapping up with that tour, but they tour pretty consistently, so maybe they will go again. Other than that, there really wasn't a lot of news I wanted to talk about this week, so we're going to get right into notable new releases and editors' picks from this week of new releases. So this is not the full slate of new albums and singles that came out this week. We post that weekly on Instagram. I'm not going to lie, it was looking to be a pretty dull week for me, at least until this Vince Staples album got announced earlier in the week. Dark Times is out now by the time you are watching this video. Also wanted to mention that new Mutant Academy EP that drops today. We mentioned a few weeks back that Fly Anakin, Obliv, and some other people were forming a bit of a Virginia-based supergroup. Albums announced this week. Again, we talked about a lot of these, but there were some I didn't even get to. Albums releasing next week, May 31st. Might be kind of like this week, where if nothing else new gets announced, then it might just be an alright week. But albums releasing in June, that is absolutely going to deliver. June 7th, we're looking forward to new albums from Charlie XCX and No Worries, Thigh Girl, ShrapKnel, and Kaytranada. Following week is stacked with a bunch of albums, many of which I mentioned earlier in the episode. And for the rest of the month, we got Kehlani, Your Old Droog, Hiatus Coyote, Omar Apollo, Camila Cabello, Lupe Fiasco, and more. Albums for the rest of the year, July and forward, those are currently up on your screen, probably headlined by the new Clairo album. I'm personally really excited for stuff like Raven Lenae's new album or Bia Badoobie, and that is the show for this week. If you like being in the know on new music, if you like being kept up to date on new music news and album announcements, then this is the show for you, coming out every single Friday. Hit the subscribe button on our channel if you want to stay up to date. I will definitely be back next Friday with more news, and hopefully I'll be back with even more exciting album announcements, and we will just have one hell of a summer. Till next week, I'm Dev. This is Obligatory. Peace out. Thanks for watching.